Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen, Alex King, and Bill G here. Today is Tuesday, March the 5th, 2019. It's 4 p.m. in New York, 1 p.m. in Los Angeles, 9 p.m. in London, Sydney, Australia. It's about 12 noon, actually. I think I've got that right. No, 8 a.m. in the morning. That's right. Sorry, Sydney. Didn't mean to get the time wrong. But wherever you are in the world, thank you for joining us for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And I'm happy to reconnect with my co-hosts, Alex and Bill. Alex, I could just tell from the smile on your face you've been having a good few days, but how was your weekend?
My weekend was pretty, what did I do this weekend?
I don't know. I just asked you.
I know. I'm trying to remember. That usually means I did nothing. So, I did laundry, watched a lot of TV, and, of course. And yeah, that was my weekend.
That was it. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, at least you enjoyed it. That seems to be the case. I mean, it's not like you are saying there was anything bad happening. So,
nope, nothing bad happened.
So it's good. Okay. Well, that's good. How about you, Bill? How was your weekend?
It was great. My brother and my sister-in-law came to visit from New York. They came to do their taxes because one of the nice perks about being a tax professional is you get to do your friends and family for free.
I don't know. And, is that really a visit? That sounds more like, take advantage of the relatives rather than a visit.
Well, I offer.
Oh, you're offering it.
It's one of those. It's one of those things where I have the ability to do it, and so I extend an invitation, and it gets them to come out and visit because they bring their nephew. They might bring my nephew to come play with my son, and they had a great time. We got to have some pancakes with some real maple syrup at a place called Sugar and Spice, which is just outside of Killington in Mendon in Vermont. It's excellent. And it just meant that I had a busy weekend and didn't get around to writing my blog, and I'll do that tonight.
Okay. Well, overall, that sounds like it's a pretty good thing, so we'll just leave it right there at that. Now, this is, theoretically, it's a Q&A. If you are listening to the live stream and you want to ask questions or just bring up a topic for us to discuss, go ahead. Actually, I'm seeing that Shelley, who does the Monday night show, said she might hop on too. So there may be 4 of us here. This could be, this could be quite the thing, but we'll navigate through it. That's all right. In the meantime, though, I figured we could just do some more of the kind of thing that Alex and I have become really familiar with, and that is posing questions for the group to answer. We do that a lot on the Friday podcast with Tom Wells, too. And it's proven to be quite a fun format. I've been doing kind of variations of it with some of the other co-hosts as well. And like anyone who listened to either this morning's podcast or even yesterday morning's podcast, or even last night's, too, with Shelley, I mean, we start diving deep into the intricacies of how this stuff works. So it's like an advanced class in law of attraction and being a deliberate creator. Right?
Yeah.
She said kind of hesitantly. So with that in mind, Jeffrey actually has the first one. He says, what does it feel like living on the leading edge? That's really a question anyone can answer because we all live on the leading edge. But
True.
But I mean, Alex, what does it feel like to live on the leading edge?
I don't know. I don't feel like I am living on the leading edge. I feel like I'm lagging behind. But yeah, I don't know. I can't honestly say. I can't honestly say I'm experiencing it. So I don't know.
Well, I mean, I can say that I have one of my past careers that I still carry on is I still host websites for a number of businesses and nonprofit organizations, and that server that I own and run, an issue came up, and that issue basically was sending out a bunch of emails, and I was dealing with that today. It brought to mind a phrase that has been around the IT community for pretty much since IT became IT, and that is that we don't live on the leading edge, we live on the bleeding edge. Because when you are dealing with softwares and new technologies that come out, you're constantly bleeding, it's kind of like the joke about the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur is the person who throws himself off the cliff and then tries to assemble an airplane on the way down before he hits the ground. It's the same kind of thing with running a server, right? You're constantly trying to keep up with what's going on and hopefully not get run over so that, everything goes to what and what. So
I think it also goes along with that the leading edge of technology is such a thin line that it's like a razor blade.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why it's the bleeding edge, precisely. Mm-hmm. So, okay, well, I don't feel like I'm on the leading edge so much as I'm on the bleeding edge. But how about you, Bill? What's it like living on the leading edge?
I think it's exciting living on the leading edge because I feel like I'm on, whatever I'm tuning in and I'm coming up with different ways of doing things. I feel like I'm developing new technologies. I feel like I'm learning more about myself. For example, I'm doing this talk at the National Convention of the American Society of Dowsers in Plymouth, Massachusetts, Plymouth, New Hampshire in June, and my topic is clearing writer's block using dowsing. Now, I use a technique this is the technique that I use for my own writing, and when I got the email saying, hey, we like your topic, we're going to do it, I realized that, wait a second, this isn't I can't really use the SRT charts for this because it needs something a little more accessible to people who do general dowsing. And so I spent Sunday afternoon developing a new technique, basically coming up with my own set of charts that you can use the pendulum for to help with someone's writing when they're feeling stuck and whatever. And that way, and the whole purpose of that is to come up with new, unique content that is inspired by source energy.
Wow.
So you connect into source energy, and it gives you the topic in which to write, and then you go from there. You move it forward from that point.
Oh no, Alex, I think he's got his beat in terms of leading edge. I mean, that's like so leading edge that I can't even begin to compete with it. What do you think?
Well, it's just ironic that the question came up because, that's something that I've been working on, and I really feel like it's a really good tool because, I don't know, for those of us who are who are trying to build a business or build a brand online, content is king, and not just repeating other people's content, but coming up with your own content and making it unique to yourself. And that can be very daunting, especially with demands of not only do you have to create new content, you have to create new content constantly. You've got to be constantly posting on Instagram. You've got to be constantly posting on Facebook and whatever, just to constantly make yourself relevant. And you can't make yourself relevant if you're constantly repeating what everybody else is saying. You have to come up with something new and unique. And if what you're doing is something that has gotten kind of routine, you need to keep it fresh. But the thing is, source energy, the non-physical world, they got lots to say. Abraham has lots of things it wants to say to people, so the message is constantly coming out. And this is just a way of tapping into that, and so I'm very excited about it.
Well, actually, Abraham also tells us that everything, they answer every question, they pose every possible line of inquiry, but the answer is always the same.
Right.
Does the content really change? I'm not so sure, but
no, it doesn't. But
it's
the
interesting
configuration
to
changes. Yeah, but you can always change the adjust what the emphasis is or what the focus is.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
and then from that point, you can put your own personal spin on it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. So okay, well, now that we've got the content thing nailed down, let's see if we can actually turn some of that content into how to be a better deliberate creator. So with that thought in mind, I'm going to put each of us on the spot here and say, let's come up with questions for us to address about, how to be a better deliberate creator, some of the kinds of issues people run into and so forth. Alex, I'm going to go to you first, because you usually have something, kind of hanging on the tap, so to speak. So what's our first topic to address? How do we become deliberate creators, that kind of thing?
Well, first I want to say hi to Shelly, because she just joined us.
Oh, hi, Shelly. Hey. I'm too busy doing too many things here. I didn't even see. Hey, good to have you join us. That's great.
I'm the only one paying attention on here. It's cool. I keep track of everything.
I count on you for that, because I'm also checking over here for the comments, so I need the support. That's really good.
Oh, that reminds me, you didn't press record.
I know. Actually, believe it or not, I did that deliberately this time. I thought about it because I saw your image, because that's what cues me, right? I see you, so I turn on record.
Pavlov's dogs.
Yep, but no, I chose not to. I'll tell you about that after the show, but no, that's fine.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay. Anyways, so my question for today was actually something I saw recently on the Law of Attraction Change My Life group, and it was a post that said, how do you use Law of Attraction to get over a broken heart? So that is my question to y'all.
That's a very common question. You see that's very succinctly put. Most often there's like a long paragraph describing what happened, right? And then it's how do I get over this? But that sounds very succinct. So that's good. That's good. I'm going to then go to our latest person to join us, Shelly. I mean, we got to get you into the conversation. So, what's your answer on that? How do we help somebody who wants to heal a broken heart?
My answer to that would be to get through it first. To allow yourself to grieve and to be heartbroken and then to go from that phase, to do your best not to stay there too long, because of course that's going to be part of your experience if you're losing someone that you really cared about or whatever, and to go from that into what your lessons are and what you can do better next time when picking someone, if, you're moving on to that. So that would be my advice.
Yeah, that's good. How about you, Bill? What do you think?
Well, let me think. I'm in agreement with Shelley that you need to first figure out, first live and experience what it is to have that broken heart, and then be okay with it. And then work on yourself to make sure that you're okay, and to forgive yourself for getting yourself in the situation in the first place, and forgive yourself for anything that you may have done to make the relationship a bad one or a good one or whatever, and also be okay with that too, and then move on. And because at that point you can now have the opportunity to change the intention of your next relationship, and your next relationship, you set the intention. And in my book, I describe how relationships should really begin with an intention that whoever it is I'm attracting is going to allow me to grow spiritually. And so, if you attract somebody who's going to allow you to grow spiritually, that's the kind of relationship you're going to attract, and then that's what you get. Because too often people are lonely to the point where they're attracting the wrong kind of people in their relationship. And, for example, I had a client recently who is currently married but is considering divorcing her husband because she's taken this spiritual journey where she's studying meditation and law of attraction and whatever, and the husband isn't. In fact, the husband makes fun of her for all the woo stuff that she does now. Mm. And she feels very unsupported in the relationship now. And she was like, now I don't understand what I found attractive about this guy in the first place.
Oh, dear.
Because, we used to be on the same page, and now all he wants to do is watch football. Mm-hmm. And now I don't feel like we're on the same page anymore. And so, we doused it, and we found that the relationship wasn't hopeless. I mean, there was some patience involved there. There was some personal healing he had to go through, but it really was up to him whether or not he wanted to stay in the relationship, because she was still somewhat committed to staying in the relationship. And I said, give it a little more time. Maybe he'll come around. He'll see the example, see the good things that are coming into your life. Just don't base your own self-worth off of what he is saying to you and what he's saying to you right now, because that's not real. That's, who you are is who you are. And if he can't handle it, then it needs to move on, and you find somebody else who will support that.
Which does take some doing, no doubt about that. Alex, I presume when you brought the question up, you had an answer in mind to bring in yourself. What was your answer for this person?
My answer is,
your answer.
I'm not going to say my usual answer is to, cancel the emotion and move on. But that's not necessarily healthy in this situation when you're dealing with, especially if it's been a long-term relationship. You want to actually, you want to grieve the relationship. You want to grieve the person. You want to, learn from whatever had happened. So I don't even know if it was you that caused the situation, but, learn from the situation so it's less likely to happen again. That's my answer.
Yeah, I think you're right. You do have to learn from it. And I love the answers you guys are giving, because you're all hitting all really, really good points. The one thing that I thought to add is that from my own experience, from times when my heart was broken, I can say, looking back on it, I needed to learn not only stuff about myself, but I needed to fill in some gaps for myself. One thing that we tend to do, especially early on in life, early in our adult lives, is we have a tendency to try to look for somebody who's going to fill the gaps for us, not realizing that that's not a healthy thing to do, because really it's up to ourselves to fill our own gaps. But nevertheless, that's what we tend to do. And so when we find somebody and that somebody seems to fill that gap, and then the relationship breaks up, that basically reopens the hole in the heart and makes the wound bigger. And the blood is pouring out more. So it's even more painful, because we thought that hole was filled, and now it's no longer filled. It's a reminder that those holes are for us to fill. It's up to us to be the person who makes ourselves whole, not a partner. And it's an opportunity. I mean, it's a painful opportunity, but it's an opportunity to grow in a huge, huge way. And ultimately, this is really hard to see when you're in the middle of a broken heart. But ultimately, a broken heart is it's a springboard to some tremendous personal growth and tremendous things happening down the line that you can't even see right now. And again, that doesn't really help you when you're in the broken heart mode, because that just hurts. I mean, everything just aches. It feels like life has come to an end and so forth. So it's hard to see that. But it really is true. I mean, when you went into that situation and come through it, and especially if you grow out of it, oh my goodness, the improvements that happen in your life can be exponential. So I don't know if necessarily that can help somebody who's currently going through it, but be reassured, this actually gets much, much better. It isn't just that your heart heals. If you do some work on yourself out of it and growing out of it and improve yourself as a result, you don't just leave it there as, oh, this terrible thing happened to me and I'll just wait for the pain to go away. But if you actually use it as an opportunity, it can be a tremendous way to build yourself up and improve your self-confidence over time. Because ultimately, that's what it comes down to. If our self-confidence isn't good, that's when it hurts the most. It's when our self-confidence feels good that, well, yeah, I'm sorry that person left, but it doesn't tear you apart like it can when you have that really broken heart. So that's my view on it. So good question, Alex. Really good.
Yeah. Thank whoever posted it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Hopefully they're listening and they learned something.
That would be good. That would be great. Yeah. Well, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, or in this case, 4 teachers. It just depends on what you're listening to. Bill, I'm going to come to you next. You got a question for us we can address?
Yes, I do.
All right.
Having to do with resistance.
Resistance.
How do you deal with resistance when you're working on creating something new in your life? For example, when you're trying to I'll give an example. My wife we're working on moving to New Hampshire because my wife got a job offer at an acupuncture clinic there.
Mm-hmm.
And, she's now starting the process of getting her licensure in New Hampshire because each state has a separate licensure.
Right.
And so she was working on that today. And she discovered that, it was going to cost a couple $100s to do this. There was, the school that she went to, the graduate school she went to in New York City, she just found out closed last year. So, she wasn't sure who to call to get her transcripts sent to the board. And, she found out the NCCAOM, which is the National Acupuncture Standards Board. There was maybe some resistance there too because, they don't have her listed as being a current member at this point, and now they gotta change that and whatever. So there's some resistance there.
Mm-hmm.
So, the question to the group is, how would you deal with that kind of resistance where you're trying to deliberately create something new, but now you're finding that it's not as smooth as it was before? That you expected. It's not as smooth as your expectation was.
Yeah, or at least the expectation that you hoped for.
Right.
You were like, please work out this way.
Mm-hmm.
So, good question. Okay, Shelley, I'm going to go to you. What do you think? What's the best way to deal with that kind of a resistance situation?
I think that when you're running into resistance like that, when you have a goal and you're trying really hard and you're trying to do it like, it sounds like she's trying to do it like she had done before and she just keeps running into all these roadblocks, is to just get open. I always describe it as like a horse with blinders on, to take the blinders off and see the 360 view. Like there's other options out there for what she's trying to do, but because she's so focused on this one way that it needs to go, she's getting all this resistance instead of just maybe taking a day and just going, I'm not going to work on this today. I'm going to do some things that I enjoy and I'm going to let it go and let go of the resistance. And when you stop pushing on something, that's when a lot of the creativity will start to happen. And the universe kind of provides that, all things will start falling into place, like, that she'll get a phone call back that she didn't think she was ever going to get, or, that sort of thing. So that would be my suggestion, is just to find a way to let go of the oars and float down the river a little bit.
Always a challenge, but yeah, that's definitely a good thing to do. Alex, what do you think? What's the other piece of information we need on this?
I was going to say the exact same thing that Shelley just said, and add to it, look for other avenues, all while taking the blinders off, and taking a day off and letting the universe work its magic and do what it's supposed to do. But also, look for other ways to work around the river as you're floating down. You know what I mean? Like, there's many ways to get to the other side of the land,
I don't think I've ever heard that before. Work around the river. That's pretty cool. That's right.
When you see the rapids ahead, you could always take your canoe out of the river.
That's right.
And walk around
the rapids.
Exactly.
That's good. The other thing I thought of too when you were talking about your example, Bill, and I've been dealing with stuff of my own along this line in the last week or so. It's hard to do, but if you can have the presence of mind to notice that you are running into resistance and to remember that resistance is not a bad thing, that's a good place to be in if you can get there. It's not easy to get there. But the reason I say it's not a bad thing is resistance is, first of all, where we do our growing. I mean, we come into this world to experience the contrast, and the contrast means running into stuff that we don't like, and stuff we don't like, we resist. So whenever we run into resistance, that basically means, we found some more contrast to grow off of. Not an easy way to look at it, but if you can look at it that way, I know that on those occasions, and they are not frequent, but on those rare occasions where I've been able to do that, I have either found a new solution that I didn't know about before or that I hadn't thought of, or I find myself in some way reducing the angst associated with the resistance, or some other shift happens. There's almost always some kind of shift that happens in the experience of it. And the shift is almost always, because I'm noticing the resistance is there, and I'm not treating it as a negative. I'm just saying it's just there. When I'm able to get into that space, more good things happen. And it's kind of hard to quantify them, but they really do. More good things happen. That's what I find. I mean, what's your experience, Bill? I mean, what's your question? How do you answer it?
Well, to answer the situation with what happened with Nina today, is that she did take a day off. She did look for other avenues, and by the end of the day, she found a way of getting her transcripts transferred from Vermont over to New Hampshire without a problem.
Cool.
She found a way the NCCOM called her up and said, "Oh, this was a terrible mistake. We're going to fix this, and we're going to reinstate you." And and so it was just a matter of okay, I'm going to let go now and think, okay, a school doesn't exist anymore. Who do you call to get your transcripts? Actually, there's a few people you can call to get your transcripts. You can call the State Board of Education, the State Board of Education. You can call the people who actually have that official transcript. And that was my first suggestion. Go to Vermont first. They got your official transcript. Have them fax it over to New Hampshire. No big deal. And so there's the important point here, though, is what is the difference between resistance and a block? Because a block is the universe saying, "Don't go that way." It's telling you, stop. You are, if you try and push through this block, you're only going to make your life more miserable, or you're moving in the wrong direction. And so what a lot of people misinterpret resistance as a block, and some people misinterpret a block as resistance. So if you think a block is actually just resistance, you're going to find yourself banging your head against a wall and not getting anywhere. But if you misinterpret a resistance as a block, then you end up not doing what you need to be doing to grow because you're too afraid, or you're too tunnel visioned to be moving into the direction you really should be going. Does that make sense?
That's a distinction I've never heard before. The distinction you're drawing between a block and resistance. That's a new one.
Because there's some things that a lot of us do that we shouldn't be doing because it's just not in our it's not in our highest good. It's not in our highest destiny. And a great example of that was when I was working the corporate world. No matter how many jobs I got, I had a lot of jobs out there. And no matter how many jobs I got, I always got to a point where I felt like I wasn't getting anywhere, that there was no growth happening anymore, or actually there wasn't any growth in the first place. And so I'm like, okay, now I'm getting a boss that I don't get along with, or whatever. And okay, if I just pivot this a little bit and make it a little easier or whatever, maybe I'll make it better. And sometimes it gets a little bit better, but it was never really great. It didn't give me that wonderful, great feeling. And it's because I was doing the wrong thing. I wasn't doing what was in my highest good. And so in myself, in my soul, I felt like I was, dragging my feet all the time. I felt like I was hitting my head against a wall. I was trying to make something better that didn't need to get better. It needed to stop.
Okay.
Because I needed to be doing something else. I needed to be doing something that fed my soul rather than making something that I felt was draining it.
Okay. Well, it's an interesting take. I like it. And it's one I'll be giving some thought to in the days ahead, I'm sure. I'm going to come to Shelley in a minute to see what question she's got, but before she does, Jeffrey actually posted a question. I wanted to make sure I got to it. It was actually kind of a follow-up to what he asked before. Remember, before he asked, what does it feel like to live on the leading edge? The follow-up to that is, how do we relate the leading edge to what Abraham calls step 5? Because, of course, Abraham now has the 5-step process instead of the 3-step process. Step 5 being where you now embrace the contrast so you can go into your next step 1 and keep the cycle going.
Okay.
So how do we relate being on the leading edge to step 5? And it's kind of a broad question. Anybody? I'm not even going to assign this one. Anyone want to step and say, yeah, I want to go for this one?
I will, if that's okay.
Go for it.
I just think we were just talking about that last night. Talking about the process and how you can take advantage of the contrast, because the contrast is there for a reason. Just like what you were just saying about, having that job and getting another job and hoping that it would be better, and, it not getting any better, and you basically just going through that until you were pushed to make a big, huge change because it was getting so bad, it just didn't feel good. And so I just think that 5th step of I'm assuming, is recognizing the contrast and using that to push yourself to the next level, is just, when you get to that point, I just look at it as an adventure. I was talking last night to Walt about how I've been, really struggling. I do reselling, so I resell clothes on eBay and Poshmark and stuff. And so I was just getting fed up with it. I've been doing it for years. I was getting drained and burnt out, and I was literally like, having a tizzy fit, not blaming anyone, but just kind of going off to my husband about how I hate it and I just want to load it all in the truck and take it to Goodwill and do something different. But even in that venting and everything, in the back of my head, I knew that was going to lead to something better. I knew I wasn't actually going to do that, but I knew that it was going to open some doors and some options for me to make it better somehow. And I did. I managed to figure out how to purge a bunch of stuff, and it's working out great, and I'm back and I'm selling stuff like crazy. And that was just like 2 weeks ago. So I think it just becomes this adventure where you have this contrast and you get frustrated, but even though you're frustrated, it's going to be this new thing that's going to be awesome that you have to get through to.
So the embracing part's really big then. I mean, that's kind of what we've been talking about in a number of ways here, but you're saying, okay, this is good. I mean, other people say this is not a good thing. You're saying, hey, let's go. This is great.
Yeah.
That's a good attitude to have. That's good. Alex, you're sitting there very quietly, and I don't know if I'm going to be smart coming to you or not about this, but I want to hear what you have to say. Because when you're quiet, it's not always a good sign. Yeah, I mean, usually you're just like bubbling over. We're like, I got to answer. Here's my hand raised. I'm ready. And you're just sitting there going very quiet. So I'm kind of daring things a little bit here.
I'm just thinking because, I feel like it goes back to what we were just talking about taking different avenues and like you said, embracing the contrast and going with the flow. It's if something's telling you to go a different way, then try a different way. Mm-hmm. If that's what you need to do, mm-hmm. Because universe is only going to hit you with a 2x4 for so many times until it gives up, and then it's like you're not even worth it. So moving on.
You realize you just you took self-abuse to a new level with that analogy, right?
Yeah, I
did. Okay. Well, let's see if we can get back to a more pain-free approach. Bill, what do you think? What's the answer to what's it like living on leading edge from a 5th step point of view?
Well, I have to confess that I'm not that familiar with the 5 steps of Abraham.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, in a nutshell, it's the first step is to know what you want and shoot out that rocket of desire, right? So that's the ask part. There's the believe part. Yes, I believe it's coming. There's the receive part. And then once you've gone through that, now you're going to start ratcheting back, not ratcheting, but you're going to start getting excited off it. You're going to grow off it. And the growth is kind of like the step 4. And then step 5, it's like, okay, I've had this great growth. Let's do it again. Let's find the next thing to get excited about. The next thing is going to be the next piece of contrast. The next piece of contrast is going to create some sort of issue, and that's going to create a step 1 where a rocket of desire goes off. So it becomes an endless cycle, so to speak. That's not precisely the way they describe it, but that's the gist of it.
Okay, that sounds great. So being on the leading edge of that, well, it's very exciting to live your life that way, because what's cool about that is you create something cool, you create something wonderful, and then you get to the point where, okay, now I can drop it. Now I can put that aside and go to the next great thing. And I mean, and you're on the right path of your life, because a lot of people, approach law of attraction, or they approach any kind of self-help, thing looking for the thing, the one thing. I'm looking for the perfect partner. I'm looking for the perfect job or the perfect career. The one thing. And the thing is, life doesn't give you just one thing. Life gives you a whole bunch of different stuff. And even when you are in that highly creative, building place, eventually, and you build something really wonderful, eventually you're going to have to put it down and pick up something else. It could be related. It could be building off the older thing, sure, or it could be something completely different. Mm-hmm. And life's really cool that way. And if you just look at, your own, those of us who have been around for a little while, you look backwards of all the different careers that you've had and all the different projects you've done in your life. And some of them you were really, really excited about, and some of them maybe not so excited about. But the ones you were really, really excited about and really, really proud of 10, 20 years ago, would you be doing them right now? Probably not, because you used that project, that wonderful thing that you did 20 years ago to build something off of. And a great example, I guess, for my own life is 20 years ago, I was teaching Reiki. And I wrote my own textbooks and whatever, and I was using the Yasui method, and I had students, and I was building something really wonderful. But then, life changed, and my interests changed, and so I was able to put that down. But I still look back at that, and I'm like, wow, you built something really cool there. And it led me to spiritual response therapy. And that was a really cool thing. Will I pick it up now and start teaching Reiki again? No, I don't think so. It's done its piece. It's done. I've built on that, and I'm doing something new.
That's good. Whenever I think about the 5-step Abraham process, I think about it in terms of not just one thing after another, but literally we're dealing with lots of things throughout our lives, often multiple things at one time. In that sense, we tend to multitask, which isn't always the best thing to do, but we're just dealing with a lot of stuff that's happening. And it kind of reminds me of the really, really old video game Pac-Man. Remember Pac-Man? Where you have a little guy and he goes around, he's gobbling up all these little bits of food and dots and all this kind of stuff. You're trying to gobble up as much as you can. Well, we're Pac-Men. We're going through life, here's some contrast, grab it. We're constantly walking through life, grabbing all this contrast, grab, and living with it and learning from it. And in some cases getting stuck in it, and other cases growing through it. But it's not like you can actually go through life without having it. I've never heard of anybody who had a life where there's no contrast. I'm not sure it's even possible. Maybe if you hide out in the wilderness, do a Thoreau, go to Walden Pond, but even there you're going to have some contrast. It's everywhere.
The physical existence is all about contrast.
It really
That's
is.
why we're here.
Yeah. So, we talk about a step 5 moment, but they're all step 5 moments, and every single one of them almost happening simultaneously. You can't really get away from them. So you either embrace them or you run away, one or the other. And when you run away, you still get them. Welcome to physical reality. So, okay, Shelley, I've given you a little time to come up with a topic. What do you think? What's our next question to address?
Well, I could just go with something personal. And asked this question, well, some similar questions before. So I have a 16-year-old son who is also transgender, female to male, and he takes testosterone, and he's my artist and my challenge and we're both Tauruses. I don't know how much any of you guys delve into, the signs and everything, but we tend to butt heads, and then we also totally understand each other too, because we're both in that same sign. And so it's just, so he's been giving himself tattoos since he was about 13 or 14 with just ink and needle. He does not have a tattoo gun because I will not let him have one because I don't want someone banging on my door upset that my child gave their child a tattoo. Uh-huh. So he's 18 and can take on that responsibility. He will not be receiving a tattoo gun. As much as I would love to give him one because I think that he's just going to be amazing when he takes off with that. So this morning when we were heading out the door, I noticed he had a Band-Aid on his finger. Like, not on the end of his finger, but the base of his finger. And I'm like, what is that? Because I knew what it was.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, and he just looked, I'm like, give me your phone. I was like half joking, but I'm just like, dang it. I told you to stop doing this. And they're all just these little tiny things. He's got a little Saturn on one of his fingers. Well, he put a little moon on the side of his finger. And he showed me on his phone because he took a picture of it, and he didn't want to take the Band-Aid off because it's healing or whatever. And I'm just
right.
And so, like, the whole, like, I'm, as we're driving to school, I'm just like, oh, like, part of me just wants to, shake you. And the other part of me is just like, why am I stifling this with him? So I'm just in this, like, turmoil with him. And I finally just looked at him and I said, and he just kind of looked at me and I just shook my head and I said, I'm surrendering with love. Like, that's what I have to do with you because you are on your path and you are so, he's so determined, from like 11 or 12, he started this transgender thing. And so it was just like that. And I'm a super open person. Like, I'm always like, you can be whatever color and whatever, religion and whatever gender and sexual preference. I have zero problem with any of that. When it happens in your house, it is, I want to say mind-blowing for lack of a better term. It's just like, what the hell is happening? Like, this is my daughter. And now she wants to be a boy. And okay, so how are we going to deal, going to counseling, going and seeing the medical doctor for the test, and, all this stuff. And meanwhile, I've got relatives that are like, why are you letting him do that at 15? You're letting him take testosterone. That's going to screw up his body so bad. And I'm like, this is, mm-hmm. It is what it is. I mean, we all screw up our bodies. We screw up our bodies just eating food, in this society. Yeah. So it's just like, so anyways, so I'm just like wondering what your guys' opinions are on just kind of surrendering to that whole thing. He's going to be 17 in May. He's going to be 18 in a little over a year. And I just feel like I'm trying so hard to like hang on and guide him and my husband's just from that whole mindset of, you kind of do what he's open to so much stuff because of this, what happened, but, he's just kind of like, well, he should just do what we say. And I know if I told him, he gave himself another tattoo, he's, then there's going to be this big discussion, like, should we ground him or, it's just like, it is what it is. Like, we can't take it away. It's just like, so, like, I just feel like I'm kind of, and this is just how I felt for a while with him, like I'm just kind of at a loss, like, okay, I love you, you're this creative little person coming into this world, and I just have to like surrender to it. I just have to stop trying to push so hard. So I'm just curious.
You know what I love about that question? That question's about 17 questions, all wrapped up into one. I love it. It is. It so well illustrates the angst you're dealing with. Like, you're trying to surrender to this, you're trying to relax to it, and you're almost like a boxer who's punch drunk from all the punches you've been getting in the ring.
That's perfect.
We can do a whole show on just that topic.
We could do 3 or 4 of them, I think.
Yeah, 3 or 4 of them, yeah. If you don't mind, I could take this one.
Go for it.
Okay. As much as we'd like to think that we are, as parents, because I've got a 10-year-old, that we are like the most open, loving people possible. As parents, we have expectations, and those expectations are usually dictated by our own upbringing, our own beliefs, and our own expectations of what our good little children should be doing with their lives. My son, when I grew up, I was outside all the time playing with my friends and whatever. My son, his definition of a good time is sitting in front of his computer, playing video games, and meeting all of his friends are virtual. And again, it's one of those, it's where he's comfortable, it's how he lives his life, and I have to accept that. I don't have to like it. I don't have to buy into it. I don't have to participate in it, but that's his path and whatever. But the thing is, there's still a part of me that's like, that's not right. That's not the way that a 10-year-old boy should be behaving. He should be outside. He should be riding a bike and whatever. He still doesn't know how to ride a bicycle. I mean, I've taught him a little bit, but then, he rides the bike around the driveway for a little bit, and he's like, okay, I'm done. And so, and then the thing is, I'll be like, and then when I'm like, hey, we got to do this, because he's really got to learn how to ride a bicycle. My wife's like, why? Where does he have to go?
Right.
We homeschool. And she was like, well, why did you learn how to ride a bike? Well, because I lived in a town where the only way to get from point A to point B was to ride a bicycle.
Well,
so,
point A to point B is from the bedroom to the computer. It's from the bedroom.
Yes.
I mean, there's not a long distance there to ride the bike.
Right. And I have a long-term client right now who is 18 years old and autistic, and it's a combination where it's his mother and the son. And I see the son, but the mother is the one who is wanting the therapy for her son. Mm. And she has an expectation that he is going to be a normal 18-year-old boy. And I had to sit her down one time and say, your son is never going to be a normal 18-year-old boy, because he is, first of all, he's autistic. Second of all, he's got a different view on life than you do. And you just have to accept that. Mm-hmm. And so, for your 16-year-old, I bet you after he turns 18, he's probably going to be a kick-butt tattoo artist.
Yeah, I totally believe that.
And, by the time he's like 25 and whatever, there's probably every square inch of his body is going to probably be covered in ink. And it's going to have to be, and if that's his path and that's how he expresses himself artistically, that's great. And so, okay.
For me, it's not even so much the tattoos. Seriously, if I knew that he would just stick to, tattooing oranges and bananas for practice, I would get him a tattoo gun, because I think it would be really important for him right now. But it's not so much that, it's just that he's probably got like 4 or 5 little tattoos on him right now that he's given himself. And it's like, I've asked him to stop, and it's more like the respect. Like he isn't gonna stop, and he knows that I'm not gonna like, ground him for life because he put another tattoo on his hand, because there's a huge part of me that's just like, I think that's really cool that you're doing that. You're not legally, you shouldn't be doing that because you're 16, but so for me, it's almost more like the respect, like, I don't know. I just, and then I look at my relationship with my mom when I was 16, and there wasn't a lot of respect.
Yes. And it repeats itself, doesn't it? Because I think back to the kind of stuff that I put my own parents through when I was 16, 18 years old. And then I look at what my son's doing, or I'm looking at what my client's doing too. I'm like, that's tame. These kids are angels.
It reminds me of what Robin Williams said. He described how he was finding his son picking up on his own habits. He was a comedian, of course, and he would tell jokes that were not always clean jokes and so forth. And his son's telling the same jokes in school, and the school's calling up saying, your son told a very interesting joke today, and that kind of thing. and Robin describes how he could just imagine sitting over his shoulder going, ha ha ha, revenge is mine.
Oh, gosh.
What do you think, Alex? You got any input you want to give?
Well, as the person who's on the podcast currently right now closer to 16 than any of you guys, I'm going to say, I'm going to talk to you from the kids' point of view. I'm going to say that I would have a conversation with him about the fact that you feel disrespected when he does the tattooing. And if he could refrain from doing them on himself till he's at least 18, where you can, or make a deal with him. Say, I'll get you a tattoo gun when you turn 18 if you refrain from doing the tattoos. But just, cause there's a certain, like, in the one sense, you're like proud of him because he's so artistic and he's really great at it. But at the same time, you gotta be a parent and you gotta be like, listen, come on now. Let's settle down. So I would just let him know, speak to him and get on his level and speak to him and let him know how you feel.
Okay, that's good. I'm actually going to give a slight variation on what you guys have been talking about, and I'm going to talk from the point of view of being the oldest person here. And my viewpoint is, I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed by kids, because I don't remember one of my co-hosts pointed this out many months ago, but kids are really amazing when it comes to sharing with us what we have often forgotten about what it's like to be connected to Source, because they are more recently than us connected in a big way to Source. They have a better memory of it than we do. And the younger the kid is, the more true that is.
Yep.
Because of that, I love paying attention to what the kids are having to tell us. I may not always like what it is that they're choosing to do, but the messages are always really powerful. So I'm going to kind of step in on your son's side and say, I want to know more about what your son is thinking and doing and planning. I mean, there's this clear direction going on, right? He's heading toward becoming a tattoo artist, but I want to know what's driving him. I want to know why that's so exciting to him, because there's something in there. There's something that he's going to contribute to mankind as a whole, to himself, to his friends and family. There's some major contribution that's coming out of that, and I don't know what it is, but I really would like to know. So, I think there's a side that says, there's some interesting wonder going on here. I wonder what it's about. I think it's going to be cool, whatever it is. Now that doesn't mean that doesn't make it easy for you to deal with it as a parent. I'm just saying there's that side of it. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's kind of where I'm coming from with the surrender and love. It's just, I've just kind of reached this point where I love him and I think he's amazing, and I think he's an amazing artist, and he's in drama, he's an amazing actor, he's a good friend, he's not a rebellious little jerk, but he makes bad decisions sometimes, but so do we, we all do that throughout our whole lives. And so I was just thinking, like, what's the easiest thing for me to do and say to him right now? And I was getting myself kind of all worked up, just in my head. I wasn't saying anything to him. And then I was just like, the easiest thing for me to do right now is just to surrender to this and just love him for who he is.
Yeah.
And quit trying to stifle him and quit trying to direct him. He's gonna be 18 in a year and like 2 months. Like, and from that point on, you know, I'm sure he'll still be at home for a while and stuff like that, but it's like then he's responsible for himself. He can make his own decisions. He can, you know, he'll be graduating shortly after he turns 18, and, you know, he can, you know, and like, I've even given him those options, you know, with school. Like, if you really want to get creative and spend your days doing something other than school, if you want to study to get your GED, that's okay, but you're going to do that. You're not just going to sleep all day and, you know, stay up all night playing games on your computer, you know, talking about the gaming computer. He does have the best computer in the house. And so, yeah, so it's like, you know, I give him choice. He's got choices. He doesn't have to go to high school. And I respect that. I'm not huge into college and, you know, I think you should do what you want. And if college is the avenue for that, great, then be college bound. But they push it so hard right now for everybody to do that. You know? But anyways, yeah, so that's just what felt good to me in the moment. And I just was kind of curious what your guys' thoughts on that
I think you're right.
were. So
and I would take the advantage of it. I would take advantage of the opportunity because, like you said, he's still home for now. You know, while he's home, find out more about what's driving him. You know, obviously this is really important to you. Obviously you think this is really good stuff. I'd like to know what it is that you're finding so great about it. I'd like to share it in the joy with you if I can. Can you help me understand it? You know, get to know him a little bit better in that sense. Get him to explain to you so that he feels like you're a part of what it is that he's doing instead of, you know, this antagonistic wall over there who constantly butts heads with him, you know, which I'm sure you don't do because, like you said, you're doing a lot of the surrendering and loving. But, you know, join in the fun. There's got to be a fun side to it. Find out what it is. Well, that's my take on it. And by the way, we're getting a lot of really positive comments from people listening in. People are loving this. Talking about, you know, how they're loving. Lynn in particular was saying how much she really appreciated your viewpoint, Shelley, about, you know, just accepting and you know, just loving him as he is. She was really loving that. Jeffrey was saying so too. He's part of the LGBT community, and he's seeing this as being very, very receptive. So good all the way around. Congratulations for having the openness that you have. That's great, and to all of us for being so accepting of it. Let's see. I think it's my turn to come up with a question. Well, actually, it's not. We're out of time. I just realized that we're past an hour, aren't we? Well, we're not quite past an hour because we actually started a little bit late. We actually have about 2 minutes left, so we'll do a little summing up. And I just realized I haven't done anything in like a week to ask people to become subscribers. So if you've been listening all this time to all these shows and you haven't become a subscriber, now's the time I'm going to remind you about it. And it's really easy to do. Just go to the homepage of the website, loatoday.net, and you'll find the link there for your device. And just click it, and it'll walk you through the process of becoming a subscriber. And then all the episodes come right to your smartphone every single day, and you can listen to them whenever you want to because they're all just queued up right there. And then also after you've subscribed and as you're listening to the episodes, please do share the fact that you're listening because we want more and more people to find out about it. We want more and more people to, you know, get their daily dose of happy from us and participate in our little community we're building here. So help us to do that and share the fact of what you're loving in your life and what you're loving about the show. Let's see, the last takes here. Bill, I know you had a book come out. Anything that you want people to know about how to reach you as a coach? What's your little thing that you want to put out there real quick?
Okay, I can be reached at ninagee.com, ninagee.com. My books are the Spirit Path Book of Days and Conscious Conduit, The User's Guide to Ascension, and they're both available on Amazon. And if you want to know more about me and what I do, the books are actually a great source to just get a primer on all that.
Sounds good. And Alex, is the new episode of the podcast out yet?
The new episode of the podcast is out yet, but I feel like I have to do another episode because we just lost Luke Perry at the age of 52.
Yeah, it was.
And Yeah, he's on a current popular TV show, so I feel like I need to do another episode.
Yeah, that's a good thing to do. But and how to remind people how they can find your podcast? What's the name of it again?
It's called Spoiler Alert. You can
Spoiler
find
Alert.
it on Spotify or on Anchor.fm.
All right, good. And Shelley, I don't think I've ever asked you this. Do you have anything that you want to let people know about in terms of reaching you?
No, not right now.
Okay. You're too busy dealing with your 16-year-old, so it's quite understandable.
That's right. I don't have time for that.
Totally understandable.
Totally understandable. And on that cheery note, I will thank Bill and Alex and Shelley for joining us. Shelley especially for jumping in, because that was a nice surprise. And also to our live stream listeners and to our existing listeners as well, thank you for listening. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.